We have never had an Oscar Best Picture race as controversial as this one. It's become the hardest Oscar Best Picture race for me to predict. I mean, you think about last year, like, we all knew it was gonna be Oppenheimer from when it opened. But this year, with all of these little dramas all over the place, I have no idea what's gonna win, and I think it's coming down to 2 nominees. But first, let's look at all the nominees and the controversies.
They do not want us here.
Who do you mean?
The people here, they do not want us here.
Okay, let's start off with The Brutalist, which when it premiered at the Venice Film Festival, like, the big film fans were falling all over this movie. This is about a Hungarian Holocaust survivor who arrives in America, tries to build a new life for himself as an architect. Part of it is how Brady Corbet shot this movie, and shot this movie in a way that appeals to the most hardcore film fans, because he made a 3.5-hour epic, complete with a 15-minute intermission, which we never see anymore. But then came the controversy around this movie, the controversy being how this movie employed AI in little bits. And part of that is, you know, Adrien Brody, he is Hungarian-American. They really wanted to capture the authenticity of the Hungarian accent, so they used AI in bits for those really most difficult pronunciations to help Adrien Brody's performance reach that level of authenticity.
I'm afraid it is not so simple.
The other part of the controversy is that they used AI to design some of the buildings that are attributed to Adrien Brody's character. When people found out when the AI was used, however minimally, to this integral part of the story, it really deflated the mystique around the movie, the kind of idealism built around it, the way this movie was sold. They really lost the plot on that part.
Hi, I'm Annie. Hi, I'm Annie. You don't have cash. Let's go to the ATM.
So next up is Anora, which is kind of the Cinderella story of this Oscar race. And really, the movie itself is a Cinderella story, right? It's a more authentic take on Pretty Woman, essentially. It's a movie that captures like the screwball comedy magic of old Hollywood movies, but it's also capturing it with an authenticity to what the daily grind is for sex workers. And look, this film is not without its controversies, because, you know, some sex workers have spoken up about certain scenes that rubbed them the wrong way. There was also a controversy that rose up in the industry because there was no intimacy coordinators on set. But ultimately, like, this movie's driving force is Mikey Madison's performance, and whatever authenticity it took to get to that performance is what people are celebrating.
Are you English?
No, I'm not English. Why?
No, because you you are pretty.
So now let's talk about Emilia Perez, or as I like to call it, the train wreck that just keeps on giving. This is the trans narco musical that people fell in love with at Cannes, the industry really embraced. It's about a cartel boss who gets gender-affirming surgery and then tries to start a new life. First, you had trans voices who spoke out about the representation issues here. Then you had all of Mexico basically revolt against this movie. And then finally comes the Carla Sofia Gascon story. The campaign around this movie was built entirely around her. This is the first ever trans Oscar acting nominee. But then came the tweets. A Canadian journalist named Sarah Hagee unearthed tweets from Carla Sofia Gascon going back years where she's been racist, she's been Islamophobic. This is where the Emilia Perez Oscar campaign just imploded, right? Like, at one point it seemed like this was the surefire Best Picture winner, the one where all the Oscar voters were gonna pat themselves on the back for rewarding what seems to them as the progressive choice, while meanwhile they were just taken in by its spectacle. They deleted her from the campaign. They deleted the title, Emilia Perez. They deleted all the photos of Carla Sofia Gascon. They don't mention her nomination. It's like she's been removed from the movie that was supposedly about her.
No sane man would want the papacy.
The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
That sounds ominous.
So now let's talk about Conclave, which could end up running away with the Oscars just by being controversy-free. Okay, now bear in mind, this is the movie about a bunch of gossipy cardinals trying to elect a pope, and the whole movie is about Ralph Fiennes' character and Isabella Rossellini's character pulling out all the receipts on the cardinals who have a history of scandal. This movie has become the perfect metaphor for this Oscar season. We're literally talking about a movie where people go around digging up dirt on their contenders while it comes through scot-free. Conclave has now become the most memeable Oscar contender because every time a scandal pops up, whether it's Anora or Brutalist or Emilia Perez, you get a perfect image from Conclave.
And therefore no need for faith.
These are the other Best Picture contenders where we're gonna end up saying, well, thank you for coming out. So first we got Wicked, which is essentially this year's Barbie. Audiences loved it. It was a big blockbuster hit, but it never really had a shot at Best Picture here. And just getting to this race is kind of like more than Wicked really deserved.
What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
Then there's Dune 2, which, 5 months ago I would have thought was a leading contender for Best Picture. It's one of Denis Villeneuve's best movies ever. Unfortunately, it just never seemed to pick up traction with all the awards voters this season.
He's now or never.
So next up, Nickel Boys, which is actually my favorite contender in the mix. This is the best American film of the year as far as I'm concerned, but unfortunately, it's just too beautiful and too challenging for Oscar voters.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself?
And then we got The Substance, which is the wildest surprise contender in all of this. This is the body horror movie starring Demi Moore, which the fact that it made it this far is a reward unto itself.
How does it feel?
And then there's The Complete Unknown, where the greatest mystery is how this movie keeps showing up during award season. This is the biopic about Bob Dylan that I found a little too handsome and dull, that I didn't think it registered a second thought, and yet it keeps showing up in all the key award ceremonies and categories. And last but not least, I'm Still Here, which is another big surprise contender. This is the Brazilian film about military dictatorships in Brazil during the 70s. It's got a powerful performance from Fernanda Torres, who was also nominated in the Best Actress category. So when we take all that in, the controversies, all the qualities to all of these films, if I was a betting man, I think this race really narrows down to Conclave, the Clean Slate movie, or Anora. And my money is on Anora.
What? 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 Did you not hear what I said?